Welcome to the Anomaly Talk podcast. My name is Lawrence Gabriel. This is my co-host.
Mina Marcos.
We're live.
Anyways, welcome back to the Anomaly Talk podcast. We've got a great show today. We've got Ali. How's it going, Ali?
Good,
From
man.
Perceptive Capital.
Yes, sir.
Boy, are you relevant at the moment because everybody's going haywire over the cryptocurrency scene.
You brought me out on a good day.
Dude, seriously.
Bitcoin
And a bad
55.
day because
Why?
there's some news with China, right?
Well, that's been going on for a long time, but it's always
True.
a good day when you're at Bitcoin 55,000.
That's true. Which means that Ethereum is also up.
it's up a lot.
And I'm the Ethereum guy.
Oh,
so
I love Ethereum
I'm
too.
not so invested in Bitcoin, but I've got my mining rig and money into Ethereum, so that's a good thing. I think
Ethereum's pumping
and Larry
too.
also is interested in that whole stock scene and cryptocurrency scene.
Cool.
But yeah, so tell me a little bit about yourself and let our viewers know a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I actually was born and raised in Egypt.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah, man.
Represent.
Bunch of Egyptians here today.
yeah. Came from Egypt in 2000, and
Okay.
right to Bayonne. And I was always interested in stocks, and my parents really encouraged that. I graduated with a degree in finance and economics. I went into Goldman Sachs right out of school, and I was trading equities and options and managing money on behalf of wealthy individuals for a couple of years. So this was 2013. It was a dream come true. Goldman Sachs was my goal. It was my epitome. It's what I thought I always wanted to do, to go into the most successful, biggest investment bank in the world. And I was just so happy to be there. And as soon as I got there, I was looking around, and the smartest people in the room were telling me about Bitcoin. And I wanted to be smart like them, and I wanted to be cool. So I opened up a Coinbase account in 2013, bought my first Bitcoin, and then I just became enamored with the space. And that's really all. Once you get in, once you dip a toe in the water, you can't stop. Fast forward a couple of years, 2016, I wrote and published a paper called The Rise of Blockchain, and that's really when things kind of changed for me. In that paper, I thought I was late. Bitcoin, when I published it, was $800. Ethereum was $8. Litecoin was in the pennies. I also talked about Dash. I talked about a bunch of venture capital firms who are invested in the space, Union Square Ventures, Pantera. And I was talking about how this is going to be something that's going to change the world, and we should be looking out. Once I published that paper, things really changed. A lot of inbound interest. People wanted to talk to me. People wanted to invest with me. People wanted to partner with me. And I realized that the opportunity set was way bigger than working for someone. I had a skill set that was honed over the past couple of years. I knew about these assets. I wrote about them. I traded them. And that was rare. In 2016 and 2017, there weren't that many people doing this. So I poached a couple guys from Goldman, from my old team, and we started a fund called Crescent Crypto that did tremendously well. It was an index vehicle, so we wanted to build something as close to an ETF as possible. An ETF is just like an index vehicle where instead of picking coins, you say Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, these are the biggest ones.
Biggest ones
We're gonna weight them according to each other, and we're gonna invest in the whole space. And when the whole space rises, we do well. Space falls, we don't do well. And that really resonated with people because people were confused. There was a lot of coins. You didn't know what to buy. You didn't know what was good and what was bad. And we said, if you invest with us, you get exposure to the whole space. I raised 2 rounds of venture capital in that vehicle, raised a bunch of money, ended up doing tremendously well. Everyone who invested was happy. That vehicle got acquired, so I had a nice exit a couple months ago, earlier this year actually, and now I'm with Perceptive Capital. So after my exit and my non-compete was over, again, Goldman connections, my partner Ty and my other partner Jameis reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in taking another bite at the apple. And now we run Perceptive Capital, which is one of the coolest DeFi-focused crypto funds in the world right now, and I'm happy to talk a little bit about that.
So what's like the biggest differentiator now with your fund? Like what's kind of like the edge? What's the catch basically to get
Sure.
to get into your fund?
Sure. The real edge here is on-chain yield aggregation. So there's plenty of funds, and we'll get into what that is. There's plenty of funds that can pick coins, right? Everyone knows Ethereum is cool. A lot of people know how to invest in Bitcoin. Fewer people know how to invest in these DeFi assets, Aave, Uniswap, Chainlink. And then even fewer, less than 1% of 1% know how to use those assets in their intrinsic ecosystems on-chain, as we call it, to use the Ethereum DeFi protocols, go on-chain right into the smart contracts, interact with these smart contracts that have been built to generate yield. So not only do we invest in the assets, which is getting easier and easier to do, that was the bet in 2017 when I launched Crescent. It was, we're going to front run the world. Nobody knows how to buy these things and store them and put them into cold storage. Everyone was afraid of being hacked. No one knew if this was legal. We took that risk and we did it, and people were interested in that. It's getting easier and easier now. Anyone can have a Coinbase app in their phone. Anyone can buy Bitcoin. Anyone can buy Ethereum. But we're doing really unique things on chain. We're staking. We're lending. We're options writing. We're writing insurance contracts. We're doing all these really cool, unique DeFi strategies to make the crypto that we own and that our investors have given us productive. So we're making the crypto work for us.
And you're playing your biggest asset as being the knowledge.
That's
It's kind of like going to a mechanic and the mechanic charges you $100 to fix something.
Yeah.
Labor could take 5 minutes, but it's the knowledge of the mechanic knowing what needs to be done. That's where the value is, not just the labor. And so you're saying that you're one of the few that know how to handle, certain cryptos and certain entities, and that's what gives you a competitive advantage. Obviously, in 10 years, maybe there's a lot more people that know it because things are getting easier by the day.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's more like, hey, we know how to do it. You won't find a lot of people who do. And that's what gives us the competitive advantage, and this is why you should invest with us. Is that kind of where
I think you hit it on the head. And it's not necessarily just that. It's there are others who potentially know how to do this, but the Venn diagram of people who know how to do this and are managing a fund is even smaller, right? So there's plenty of people out there. Not by plenty, it's not as many as you think who can actually understand how to interact with these platforms.
for sure?
And then if you overlap that with people who have actually managed money at Goldman Sachs, so my partner Ty was managing over $10 billion at Goldman Sachs in fixed income strategies, and my partner Jameis was a Ethereum ICO investor, so one of the first people to invest in Ethereum. He seeded most of the DeFi protocols that exist today. So he's a true OG. And then I've managed a crypto hedge fund in the past. So that overlap of talent is very unique. And it gives us a really cool selling point and an edge. So like I said, anyone can buy Ethereum, but very few people can generate the yields, the income on that Ethereum that we're able to generate.
No, but if you look 10 plus years ago, this is a good gateway into kind of how Mina and I got flirted into that space.
I was just gonna bring up that story.
Tell us.
So when Ripple started to come up, it was like if you asked us what was the analysis of why Ripple, we couldn't tell you. It was just
It's because it was pennies, and you thought you could buy a bunch of it,
yeah,
right?
exactly. So literally it goes as simple as that. I'm not gonna pretend that we had some strategy to it.
And there was a ton of hype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was not easy to buy. So in this, not the same.
Where
way,
did you
but
buy?
of
Did you have to go
similar
to
sense.
Kraken? Was that where you guys were going?
No,
Or?
this was back before. It was like a 3,
We were like
4, 5
early years
step.
in college. It was we had to buy and then convert it to another crypto, and like it was a bunch of exchanges we had to do, and then we could finally get into the because you couldn't straight up buy. Ripple.
Yeah.
And
So that's
wallets weren't online based then.
Yeah.
We had to download
Paper
software,
wallets and-
and I still have the file. And I don't know what to do with it because there aren't many platforms, but I still have a tangible file on my desktop with that Ripple wallet.
And the Ripple
pretty
wallet we
funny.
were using it's like no longer serviced. So they actually sent a message to all of us, like an email, whatever, saying we're no longer servicing this wallet. So we were like, I don't know, what the hell?
Yeah,
dude,
at that
what does
point we were like, what
does
do
that
we
mean? So, and then at that point, or even before the service issue, there was people really desperate to everyone was like on this high of try to get rich, whatever.
Yeah.
So people reached out to me and Mina and were like, can you invest Ripple into us? Now this is probably where it gets illegal. So we kind of halted at that point because some people were willing to pay put their savings into it whole.
Yeah.
And that was scary. So
Yeah.
Thank
we
God
don't.
we didn't do it.
Yeah, we didn't.
Good
We
job.
didn't know. We didn't know
Because it tanked.
because we didn't understand long term game what is it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we were like, forget it. We're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then whatever, it crashed I think at one point, and we were like, okay, that's a good sign that we didn't. So that was our flirtation with it. And then it wasn't until Coinbase started coming out where it makes it a lot easier to buy it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where it got killed off. Now, I was going to ask you, because you were mentioning this aspect of a DeFi, and then you were saying on-chain. Can you explain those two different things? Because I was trying to follow through as to like the
Sure.
actual concepts themselves.
So DeFi is just decentralized finance, and
Okay.
it's probably good that we define that term early in the conversation. Finance, as we know it, is centralized finance. Right? We all have bank accounts. We all have, a Chase bank account or Wells Fargo or Bank of America. We all have places where we can get loans. We have credit cards. We have insurance companies. All the traditional financial world, that's centralized finance. DeFi is taking that archaic system, all the red tape and people and infrastructure and costs that exist today to do a simple transaction, and bringing it into the Ethereum or other platforms. Most of it right now exists within the Ethereum ecosystem. So things like banks, which are really lenders, they take your deposits, right? They take your checking and savings account, they take your money, they find someone who wants to buy a car, they'll lend them the money. The person will pay the bank 6%, and the bank will pay you 0.01% in your savings and keep the difference, right? That's what centralized banks do. They'll take your money, they'll lend it to someone who wants to use it for a credit card, take your money, lend it to someone who wants to buy a house, start a business, etc. That's all traditional finance. DeFi is a way to disintermediate these banks, essentially. That's one of the biggest use cases. So instead of having a bank sit in the middle between me and my money and you as a borrower, we can all interact into this DeFi ecosystem. You don't need a bank account. You don't need a username. You don't need a login. You don't need to be in the US. You don't need to be in China. You can be anywhere in the world as long as you have an internet connection and an Ethereum address, an Ethereum wallet. You can interact. I can lend you money. You can pay me interest. I can sell you insurance. I could. We can have a savings account. You can pretty much do anything that exists. Slowly over time, we're building more and more into DeFi. What we do at our fund is we invest in these protocols, into these projects that are trying to capture more of the centralized world. And the centralized world is broken, right? We see what's happening, right? The bankers are getting rich. The stockholders are getting rich. The executives are getting rich. But the people who are actually providing the money into this, the liquidity providers, we're getting paid 0.01, if that. There's some bank accounts in the world in Europe that are paying negative interest rate, which means you literally, by depositing your money, they charge you to hold on to your money. When you account in the United States for overdraft fees and ATM fees and all the fees on top of fees on top of fees, and then you deduct that from whatever interest you were getting, you're actually in the negative interest rate right now. So these bankers are getting rich. The users, the people are suffering. Decentralized finance is trying to solve and get rid of some of these rent seekers in the ecosystem. What we do is we try to identify those entrepreneurs that are building, and we invest in them, and we try to help our investors capture as much of that value as possible.
Now, for those who don't understand how when someone is told like how Bank America works, they understand because there's people involved to keep the system going. How do you explain to those who don't understand how this checks and balance system works in a system that is technically decentralized, so there is no entity keeping it
That's
managed?
a great question. So there's significant cost at something like Bank of America. Think of all the people, think of all the real estate, think of all the ATMs and the offices and the electricity and the cars moving the cash around. All that has to be borne by the users, right? But yeah, it does provide checks and balances. What these DeFi protocols have done and have done really well is a concept that we like to call code is law. So all of these interactions, all of these rules have been written into code and enshrined into the public domain. So they're written into a series of code, and they're open source, and they're put onto the Ethereum platform. And they're saying, if you want to interact with my decentralized bank, here's a list of the rules. Here's how things will operate. I, as a user, cannot change those, and you, as an entrepreneur, cannot change them either. They are enshrined forever. The rules are set. They cannot be changed. In our current system, the rules can change at the whims of regulators, at the whims of bankers, at the whims of the people, new administration, Congress, etc. So to answer your question is, the system of checks and balances and rules exists. It's codified. It's voted on. It's put into the public domain. No one can change it. And anyone who wants to interact with this system has to abide by those rules. And if you don't like this system, there's 3 or 4 other entrepreneurs that are building other cooler systems that are going to try to eat that one's lunch.
Now, are these using these aspects of a rules? It sounds like a smart contract.
Yep.
Is that essentially what it is? And can you explain why does Ethereum have like a technology behind it called smart contract? Does Bitcoin have that also? Like what's
Sure.
the differences now at this point with
Sure.
the technology behind it?
Totally different. Bitcoin really solves, in my opinion, the money problem that we have. So money has become, paper money has become debased and devalued by almost every single country in the world. Any country can print more money at its whim. And when it does, what it's essentially doing, it's stealing value from us as holders. What do I mean by that? If there were only $100 in the entire United States, and you, Larry, owned 5 of them, you own 5% of the wealth in the United States. You've worked really hard. The podcast is killing it. The advertisers are coming in. And you got 5% of all the money in the United States. All of a sudden, the country is having some hard times. COVID comes, and they're like, you know what? We're going to print some more money to help do some of these things. So we're going to print another $100. Well, you went from owning 5% to owning 2.5% because now you're 5 over 200. That is theft. That's theft by inflation. Bitcoin came in and it said, we are going to create a monetary system that is going to be finite in nature. Here are the set of rules. We're going to codify them. We're going to put them onto a public blockchain, a Bitcoin blockchain. They're going to exist forever. There's going to be 21 million Bitcoins. No one can create new Bitcoins. There's a whole bunch of cryptographic encryption mechanisms that allow this system to proliferate and mining, et cetera. But from at the highest level, Bitcoin is money that cannot be manipulated. You cannot increase the supply of it or decrease the supply. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. Anyone can buy and sell these Bitcoins as they please, but there is no smart contract mechanism. Bitcoin is pluses and minuses, plus 1 Bitcoin Larry, minus 1 Bitcoin Ali. It doesn't have the if and or multiplication, the ecosystem that Ethereum has. Ethereum came after Bitcoin. It saw what Bitcoin was doing. It said, this is fascinating. This is really cool. But what if we programmed that money? If Bitcoin is money, right? Think of Bitcoin in the real world scenario as gold. Ethereum, like a kind of vague example, is like oil. It's what moves the money around. It's what makes the economies keep going. So Ethereum figured out a way to program money. It created smart contracts. It said, one of the biggest issues in the world right now is trust. I don't trust you, and you don't trust me, and we don't trust a guy we don't know. And because of this lack of trust, we hire so many intermediaries, lawyers and bankers and trust accounts and lawsuits and judges, and because we don't trust each other, right? Because I don't trust your word and you don't trust me. All these intermediaries exist, and all this cost exists in our world, and we lose a lot of productivity because of all these things, insurance and title companies, and the whole. If you really think about it, it's because we don't trust each other. If we agreed that handshakes here, deal's a handshake deal, and we don't need anyone else, we can both save a lot of money. Yeah. But we don't trust each other, so we pay a lot. Smart contracts came in, and they say, hey, we are going to agree to a set of rules. You and I are going to decide what these rules are. We're going to write these rules, and we're going to put them onto the Ethereum blockchain. The solidity language behind Ethereum allows anyone to do this. Anyone can create any smart contract that does anything. It doesn't have to be financial. It can be anything. We're going to put this smart contract onto it's a real world contract. It's a contract with a set of codes and laws, and we're going to put it on the contract. If the parameters are met, the smart contract will execute. So the most simple example that I like to give people, if you have a house and you want to sell me that house, instead of dealing with the title company and the insurance company and the mortgage company and the real estate agent and the lawyers and all of that, the house ownership is tied to the deed on the house, right? The deed is at City Hall. We can create a smart contract. And we can say, hey, Larry, your house, I want to buy it for $1 million. Give me 2 weeks to come up with the money. We're going to create a smart contract. The smart contract is going to point towards the record at City Hall that has Larry's name on it right now. It's going to say, if the name of Larry changes to Ali within 2 weeks, then release this money to Larry. If the name of Larry does not change at City Hall from Larry to Ali, then release the money back to Ali. Do you agree to this smart contract? I agree, you agree. I'm going to put up my $1 million. I'm not scared. I'm going to put my $1 million into the smart contract. I don't need to trust you. If you change the name, and I can't back out, if you change the name, the smart contract will release the $1 million to you. If you don't change the name within 2 weeks, the smart contract will release the money back to me.
So let me ask you a question now, because this was a personal curiosity of mine when I read into this aspect of a smart contract. We sign contracts like for a home or for whatever other big purchase that we make, and they're miles long in papers that we have to sign. What to stop the mimicking of that style of just overcomplicating the rules of a smart contract, where me, Lawrence, now looking through this, reading through the contract, and I'm like, so long. All right, whatever. I'm sure it's probably legit, and I'm just gonna sign it. And basically, I've just now like subjected myself to this rule based system that I have no lawyer to counter, basically, because it's already in the system. So is there going to be like an essence of like a crypto lawyer? Like, isn't there a room for like a complication of the smart contract?
Absolutely. There's definitely room for complication. You can put whatever you want, whatever many parameters. So the more complex the smart contract is, the more expensive it is to execute.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
a simple, if one variable happens, then release the money. That's not going to cost us much Ethereum in what's called gas. So in order to execute a smart contract, you need to pay the Ethereum ecosystem to compute everything that needs to
I
happen.
see.
So the
Okay.
more complex we make it, the more expensive it's going to be for me and you. So there's this sort of check and balance in the system already to make things less complex. But you're right. If we do decide that we want to make it complex, there's no one you can cry to later.
Yeah.
There's no lawyer that can save you and can get your money out of the smart contract. So, of course, code is law. If you want to abide by the system, if you want to be your own bank, if you want to be your own trustless entity to participate in this world, you have to understand what you're participating
And
in.
there is, I think they prepare for these instances for like kill switches, where like you hit, if let's say there was a mess up in the code, and people figured out that they can take a lot of money from the insurance company, and they see like tons of cash going, they can kill it basically. There's like a rule in the smart contract, if they lost like X amount of money, just stop basically the whole asset. And
No,
kill,
not
kill
always.
the contract.
The best smart contracts don't have that, right? So I don't want you to have a kill switch, because
Yeah.
what's to stop you from using the kill switch just because I'm making a lot, or you no longer want to participate? So the best do not. And because the smart contracts are still relatively new, you hear often that they break. So someone doesn't code something properly, right? And someone figures out a vulnerability. What if I figured out a way to change the name from Larry to Ali momentarily and trick the smart contract and get that? There are both black hat hackers and white hat hackers out there that are always trying to figure out how to break the system. But as these systems go on and become more robust, they become harder and harder to break. And we went really deep on the smart contracts.
sorry.
there.
No,
It's okay.
because this is so cool. And you just mentioned what hackers?
Black hat hackers,
Black hat hackers and then
white hat hackers.
What's the difference?
So a black hat hacker is he sees a contract between me and Emmanuel, and he's like, whoa, they messed up. They made a mistake. I can actually pretend that I'm Ali and trick the system into thinking that the name changed to Ali, and I can have the system actually send me the money. He's going to keep the money for himself. A white hat hacker is like, whoa, there's a vulnerability. I'm going to reach out to Larry and Ali, and I'm going to say, hey, there's a vulnerability. I'm going to show you, but you owe me money for showing you, just to tell you what it is.
So they wouldn't even fix it.
No, they're going to tell you what the vulnerability is. It's up to you to fix it. Maybe that's not their job. Their job is to find the vulnerabilities and do the penetration, or show you that there could be an issue, tell you about it, and they get rewarded. And most of these smart contract developers, most of these platforms, they actually have what's called bounties. So they'll have a white hat bounty in order to incentivize people to try to find these vulnerabilities so they can patch them. They're willing to pay them in order to continue building what they're building.
Which is what the job is of cybersecurity person at any
Exactly.
company, right? They'll
job is to
they're like,
break
break Google. We want
Exactly.
you to
Yeah.
break Google so we can fix the vulnerability.
Exactly.
And this is all open source. So me and you can have a contract, and we spend a lot of time developing it and doing cool stuff.
and
And
then
then
it's available to
Mina looks and is like, whoa, that's pretty cool. But
copy
you
and
know
paste.
what? It's missing this one cool thing that I can do.
Yeah.
And I bet you if I do that, everyone's going to want to use my contract and pay me fees and come onto my platform. And then the next guy comes. And then these guys see what you're doing. And the beauty of open source is that the consumers win.
Always.
We're
'Cause
gonna.
it always gets better.
It keeps getting better and
Exactly.
better, and the money flows to where things are better, and we just reward excellence. It doesn't matter that you're in the U.S. and building and you have access to venture capital from San Francisco. It doesn't matter. You can be the little kid in India or in Pakistan who has a really cool idea, is really good at developing on Solidity, sees this cool smart contract, sees this cool platform, replicates it, and does something cooler with it. People rush over there. People are investing in that. People are using it. It reduces borders. Everything becomes borderless. It gets rid of trust. It allows anyone to participate in the financial ecosystem, and it's truly like world changing. We're at the precipice of something as cool as the internet, and most people don't even know what's happening. And that's how I feel about it at this point.
Now, speaking of that, because you said something, so when you were in Goldman Sachs, and you saw everybody talking about Bitcoin and crypto, and it was very early in stage. And was there more research that you did on your side, or did you believe in these people and their intelligence so much that you kind of went on a limb into getting yourself into investing into Bitcoin and things like that?
No, the first thing there's no need to lie. It was someone it wasn't everyone. This is actually still very niche back then. Someone who I respected and trusted was telling me about Bitcoin. And I was like, cool.
If it's good enough for him,
Yeah, I'm in, know. That's what I bought some. And then after I bought some, the price tanked. And then I was like, I really had to figure out if, do I keep this? Do I hold on to it? Do I buy more? What do I do? So I dug in deep and I started reading everything I could. And I was like, there's no coming back. Once more people find out about this, once more people have conversations like this, the cat's going to be out of the bag. I started investing more and reading and attending meetups and listening to podcasts and just doing everything that I can. And the culmination was writing that paper and putting it out there and saying, like, this is what I learned, this is what I know. And I'm happy to share the paper, and you can put it in the show notes if you want.
Definitely. I want to read it myself.
It stood the test of time. It's not long, but it was in 2016, and I definitely didn't know as much as I know now. And every once in a while when I go back and read it or share it with someone just to make sure that I wasn't too much of an idiot, I'm happy that it's out there and it exists and it's time-stamped, and this is how I thought and this is what I believe, and a lot of what it's grown way faster than I ever could have anticipated. And I think we're still early.
That's awesome.
I really do.
I was just about to ask, in the relativity of timeline, right? There's a finite amount of Bitcoin, 21 million. I'm not sure, you probably know, how much have we mined so far?
Almost 19 million.
19 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're
in
getting...
December of this year, we will be at 90% of the way mined.
But it does get difficult as we get closer to the 21 million,
Oh,
correct?
yeah. It's gonna. So we've already done, we'll say 90%. It's going to take us another 120 years to get to the last.
Just the 10%?
Yeah.
Wow.
So the overwhelming majority have been mined already. You and I aren't going to be around when, I'm not, maybe you.
No.
Aren't going to be
120
around.
years.
Why is it so difficult?
By design. All right. So Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor of Bitcoin, he, she, they, them, we don't know. It's pseudo-anonymous, or it's anonymous, actually, who the inventor is. Created this rule set and codified it and said, he created a schedule at which these Bitcoins will be released. And he said every 4 years, the rate of them being released will be cut in half.
Okay.
And if you do the math, like every 4 years it gets cut in half, every 4 years it gets cut in half, it's going to take until the year 2144, I believe, for the final Bitcoin to be mined. And that was by design. It's an incentive mechanism to keep people who mine this. It's a reward for the people who mine and secure the network. We don't have time to get into all those details today. And then it's also it served a really cool economic experiment here, where every 4 years, because the supply gets cut in half, we have what's called a supply side shock. And if you've ever taken an economics class, most price is driven by supply and demand. If the demand stays the same and the same number of people are interested, but then the supply gets cut in half all of a sudden, the price shoots up. So every 4 years this happens, but it's twofold. Not only is the supply getting cut in half, the demand is growing. So you're getting a squeeze in the supply and an increase in the demand, and that's what's leading. Yeah. That's why we're seeing these explosive price gains that are happening, and that's why I still think it's still early. So many people know the term Bitcoin. In fact, I just read a study, and the headline was, they asked a whole bunch of Americans, what is Cardano? And they thought Cardano was cheese. And they asked them, what is Ethereum? And they thought Ethereum was a drug. We are still so early. Right? We're all in our own little bubbles. A lot of people have heard about Bitcoin. Some people have heard about Ethereum. Very few people actually own Bitcoin or Ethereum. Almost nobody owns these DeFi assets that I'm discussing with you today. So the price that we're at today is irrelevant. People are afraid because they see big numbers. They see Bitcoin 55,000. They see Ethereum 3,700.
It's nothing compared to what it will be.
We are still so early, and we're all going to make it.
Wow.
And you don't need to be a genius to see that the writing's on the wall. When people when the internet was first coming out, I remember exactly where I was. Right, I'd just come from the Egypt, United States. The year is 2000. You guys were probably very young, but AOL was mailing us CDs in the mail.
I remember that.
You go to Rite Aid and you can pick up these CDs for 15 minutes, 30 minutes if you were lucky, of free internet. You'd plug this thing into your computer, into the CD. Your computer would make all these weird
dial-up,
sounds
yep.
that dial up. Your mom would be yelling at you because she can't use the phone while you're playing RuneScape. And if you told everyone back in 2000, if I told you in 2000, if I told my parents in 2000, invest in the internet, because only 20 years, from 2000 to now is 20 years, every single person in the entire world is going to have the internet in their pocket. Every single company is going to have a website. Every person is going to have multiple email addresses. Every single transaction is going to happen online. There's going to be companies that are going to allow you to buy things. You can purchase whatever your heart desires, and it'll show up in your house within 2 days. Everyone's like, come on, what do I need that for? No, probably not. We as humans are really bad at identifying change or exponential change. I think Ethereum, Bitcoin, and crypto assets is that for this generation. 20 years from now, everyone's going to look like, how did they not see this coming? It's going to touch every aspect of our world. It's a much cleaner, much more efficient system, and it's going to change the world.
So you're probably laughing when you hear all the news when the price of the crypto goes down, and you're seeing like, oh, is this the end? Basically, is like the hype over?
Yeah.
And you're probably just because you understand the trend lines, you probably anticipate probably the falls like whenever based off the supply or however it may be. But so is that how you're looking at it? Basically, like
That is exactly how I'm looking at it. Not only do we laugh, I mean, there's so many memes and jokes within the industry, weak hands and paper hands. It's just, this is not like a stock, right? So Bitcoin, Ethereum, there is no company behind it. There's no cash flows, there's no revenues, there's no profit, right? So people's opinions of it are irrelevant. It's numbers. Numbers don't lie. The code is the law. I know exactly how many Bitcoins there are. I know how many people there are on Earth. I know how many people own Bitcoin today. I know how many, there's 21 million Bitcoin, right? 8 billion people. There's plenty of people who own a lot more than one Bitcoin. So the number of humans who will ever own a full Bitcoin is minuscule, right? So to be one of the people who knows about Bitcoin and has the opportunity to and can potentially purchase a full Bitcoin and not, you are going to be among the rarest of, oh, that person's got a whole Bitcoin, a whole coin, all right? And the same is true with Ethereum. These assets were still so early. Yeah, so you're right. We do laugh. We think, these people are not going to make it. They're afraid. They sold. The people who sell are typically people who don't fully understand. They invested because someone told them about it. They don't understand the nuances behind it. So yeah, we don't really look at short term. We're investing for the long term. What we really focus on is how, while we're going to hold this for the long term, how can we make this super productive? How can we actually make the coins work for us to generate more coins in really efficient ways?
Man, I'm already a fan of crypto and Bitcoin and Ethereum, but for some reason I have the urge to go on Coinbase right now and drop my savings.
Would you believe me if I told you that for a long time now, and multiple people have told me I was crazy? Everything's in crypto. We don't even, we don't even have we don't have any stocks anymore. We don't have any, like barely any cash. We just all.
So I want to play the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
You've got crypto. You've got DeFi. What is DeFi and cryptocurrencies' arch nemesis? What's that one thing? What's its weakness? What's that one thing that if it was to happen, the whole structure would fall? So, for instance, in my head, a country can easily regulate it out, right? Just say, hey, no business. I don't even know if this is possible. I'm just at this point, I'm just talking for the sake of
go for it.
The entertaining idea. If the government's like, no business is allowed in the United States to accept cryptocurrency as a form of payment, what happens?
Sure. So
Yeah.
the short answer is, your first question is, what is the arch nemesis? How does this all crumble? If the internet fails, right? I mean, if we no longer have the internet, then
crypto is the least of our worries.
But sure, but there's no more crypto.
Yeah.
A government could regulate it, could make it difficult for its own citizens to access, but a government cannot actually shut it down or make it impossible. There's no person behind Bitcoin. There's no one you can file a lawsuit against. These servers are hosted in almost every single country in the world. They even have Bitcoin servers in space. There's actually no physical way, no power, no authority can shut down Bitcoin, but authority can make it difficult for its own citizens to interact with some of these protocols, Bitcoin included. And that is a risk. That risk would obviously slow the growth that I'm talking about down. The analogy I like to give people is think of a hose, right? If a country puts its finger on the host to try to block it, all it's doing is it's kind of accelerating the pressure into other places. So China did this. China banned miners. China banned this cryptocurrency ecosystem. The people that suffered were the Chinese and the Chinese businesses. The Chinese exchanges saw a massive flight of capital. Huobi saw the biggest, almost all the crypto that was held by Chinese people just flew out. And where did it go? It's not like the crypto disappeared. It's not like crypto got hurt. It went into the decentralized exchanges, the ecosystems that are being built that can't be regulated. It went into Uniswap and SushiSwap and DYDX and Perpetual. So yes, that is a risk. It's a concern. They can make it more difficult for us. There's going to be short-term issues, right? The prices will go down when these things happen. But it is my belief that the decentralized nature of it and the fact that it exists in every single country, the fact that you can't stop one person, you can't kill an idea, right? You can make it more difficult. You can try to censor it, but in the long term, it's truly, I think, beyond the point where which you can shut these things down.
Is it the belief of the crypto community that it should be a unified currency? Everyone should have one crypto to like interact with when it comes to currency, or do you see a world where every country has its own coin?
Yeah, no, it is definitely not the belief at all of the crypto industry. And I mean, it's a big task for me to speak on behalf of the crypto industry.
Sorry.
But I have not come across anyone who advocated for one. There's plenty of people who are what's called Bitcoin maxis. I was one of them for a long time who believe that Bitcoin will be the inevitable world reserve currency. I think that that's a possibility. It's a non-zero chance. You're seeing more and more countries move in that direction. When a country issues its own, it's still the same issues that we've had today, right? They can still manipulate. They can still increase the supply. They can still seize your assets. They are still in control.
It's a tease, right? It's like, oh,
Exactly.
we did the crypto thing like you guys wanted us to.
Central bank digital currencies are out there. Are countries trying to do this? I don't think they are necessarily competing with the existing ecosystem today. They're competing with like the paper money. There's plenty of illicit activity happening with paper money. If we moved over into a digital system where there was no paper money, you can track everything, you can see everything. Things become a lot cleaner. So no, I don't think that that's a scenario. I do think we're going to live in a multi-chain world. There's going to be Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana, and there's going to be transactions that need to happen quickly and cheaply, and they're going to be in a system. There's going to be transactions that are going to be more complex and require a different kind of smart contract. There's going to be some. There's going to be transactions that just need value. Like they need immutability. They need the highest level of security, the highest level of trust. That's going to be Bitcoin, right? So if you want to settle a $2 billion transaction, a $2 trillion transaction, and you want to make sure that it's done and it's safe and it's secure and it's countries doing trade around, that's probably going to exist within Bitcoin. So yeah, I do think there's going to be multiple use cases and multiple chains where these assets move and interact with each other.
I wanted to ask. I feel like this is kind of funny, so I'm gonna say one word or a name.
Okay.
I just want you to tell me what you think or what comes out.
Okay. I hope I don't get in trouble for
Ready?
this.
Elon Musk.
Oh, cool dude.
Okay.
I think he.
But in terms of the crypto world, because of what he did with Bitcoin.
Or Doge more particularly, yeah.
Yeah. So
that too.
My view on Elon Musk is that he was the Bitcoin darling for a little while. He got Tesla in, and then he said some nonsense stuff, and the price crashed. And the more Elon talks about crypto, the less power he has over crypto. The same way the more China talks about crypto, the less power. China has banned Bitcoin 10 or 11 times at this point, and every single time people get scared, oh, it's the end of the world, it's the end of crypto, pricing is sell, sell, sell. They banned crypto 2 weeks ago. Bitcoin's nearing all-time highs today. So every single time, as the space matures and gets bigger, these influencers have less and less influence because crypto is just becoming larger and larger than any particular entity. I am a big fan of Elon. I think he's revolutionizing the pace at which we are moving to a climate change. Right, Teslas are great. SpaceX is great. Crypto is great. Bitcoin was cool before Elon. It's going to be cool after Elon. Elon can join on the ride or not. He is on the ride. He never sold.
For sure.
Both Tesla and SpaceX own a bunch of Bitcoins. So I'm a fan, and I think he's a cool dude.
Awesome. I had to ask because there's a lot of people. A lot of people loved Elon, and then he did that thing. But obviously, probably for his benefit, honestly.
Yeah.
When he promoted Bitcoin and skyrocketed, after that it dropped, so he probably bought more, honestly.
Yeah,
But
but a lot
it's
of
all
people speculate
speculation
that way.
at this point.
Yeah.
So my friend has been trying to explain NFTs to me.
Okay.
A little bit of a difficult way of understanding it, I guess, or I just can't fathom buying a JPEG and then that returning some type of profit.
Yeah.
So please
Okay.
explain this.
So, tall ask. I wish my partner Jameis was here, who's the NFT lord of crypto right now.
You're gonna have to send him that you just said that.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
gonna
I'll
have to
let him.
send
He
him
knows.
this
I
snippet.
call him that all the time. He's the NFT meme lord. So Jameis is, for your listeners, Jameis Johnson. He, for those of you who know Doge, he recently purchased the Doge NFT. So
Which is
the picture of non-fungible
fungible token, yeah.
We'll get into that in a second. So he bought the logo, right, the actual image that the woman took of her dog. He bought it for approximately $4 million a couple months ago.
Yeah, just $4 million, like.
Well,
Yeah,
him,
it's
him and a
like-
couple of his friends.
Yeah.
They put together a DAO, right? They
Oh,
put
okay.
together a small organization, and they purchased this thing.
Okay.
And they purchased a couple other really cool ones, but they purchased this thing, and I thought it was silly. You know, I was like, this is a lot. I'd rather have the ETH. You know, they're buying this in Ethereum, and he was like, no, just watch. He bought this thing, and exactly a month ago, he fractionalized it through the power of DeFi and Ethereum and decentralization. He took this JPEG, he fractionalized it, and he sold 20% of it. So his organization
Of the image,
of
yeah.
the image. He sold 20% of the image. Guess how much he sold 20% of the image for? He bought
I'm
it for
honestly
$4 million.
terrified.
$45 million a month ago. He sold 20% of the image.
Hey, put the camera on me for a second.
$45 million.
All right, that's enough.
At one point,
45 million.
and the price kept rising. At one point, the total value of the image, if you apply the price of each unit times the price that it was trading at its market cap, was over $600 million, which made it the single most valuable piece of art in the history of the world. More valuable than any Mona Lisa, Leonardo, Da Vinci, art, music, sculpture, you name it. This picture of the dog that my friend Jameis bought, my partner Perceptive Capital, for $4 million and sold only 20% of it.
For 45 million.
In ETH. So it's actually worth a lot. He sold it for 18,000 Ethereum.
When Ethereum was at what?
I don't know, maybe 2,500.
Okay,
Right? So
and now it's almost about-
3,500,
yeah.
right? So it's
Jeez.
this is the power of NFTs. But what is an NFT, right? NFTs are non-fungible tokens. What is a fungible token? Bitcoin is a fungible token. Your one Bitcoin is the same as my one Bitcoin, is the same as Larry's Bitcoin. It doesn't matter. We can move them around. We can trade them, and they're all fungible. Dollars are fungible, right? Your single dollar bill, my single dollar bill, they're all fungible. NFTs are the non-fungible. I mean, every single one of them is unique. And it creates a really cool economy. For instance, you played Yu-Gi-Oh! When you were a kid,
Back
or
in the
Pokemon,
day, yeah.
or Pokemon
Yeah.
cards, right? The company behind them, they claim that some cards are more rare than others, but it's never really clear how many of these exist. They can always create more. You know, Blue Eyes White Dragon. They can always create more of them, right? And they can always sell them, and they can control who has them. Within an NFT system on the Ethereum blockchain, we can actually know exactly how many cards were created, how many cards were minted, if every single one of them is an NFT or attached to an NFT. So the physical card can have an actual NFT version, and a JPEG of that card on the Ethereum blockchain. And if you own the physical card, you also own the JPEG. We can know that there were 1,000 of the non-rare cards, and 500 of the rare, and 200 of the super rare, and 10 of the ultra rare, and the one-of-a-kind Exodia. There's only one of them. And then we can actually assign value. We know because it's transparent, and we know that more cannot be created. We see Yu-Gi-Oh's Ethereum address. We see how many were created, and we know exactly who owns what, and we know exactly what we can assign a value on every single one of them.
Completely transparent.
No one can game it. No one can lie. I can't sell you a fake one. So there's plenty of people who create fake Yu-Gi-Oh cards and fake Louis Vuitton bags,
Can't
and
do that.
you can't, because hey, if I'm gonna buy it from you, I don't care about the physical card. I also want you to give me the NFT. You can fake the physical card, but if you don't have the JPEG, then you don't actually, you're selling me trash, right? How I'm going to prove to the world that I own the real one is I want the JPEG. So you're going to give me both or nothing, and I'm not interested in it. So it totally disqualifies the fakers of the world. So that just applies to Pokemon cards. Imagine if you're a Louis Vuitton and you want to cut out the guys who fake all the purses, right? Yeah, it's not going to stop people from owning fake purses, but no one's going to be able to sell them as real, right? So if I have a bag, or my wife has a bag and she wants to sell it to you, and I'm claiming that it's real and it was issued with an NFT, I'm going to say, okay, I believe you. Show me the NFT. The NFT is there. I can see that it was minted from the Louis Vuitton Ethereum address. I can see that it was handed down to you and you handed it down to me. And, oh, okay, Ali, you're going to sell it to Larry. Now he owns it. We know who owned it all the way back to the inception, and we cannot fake it. So this is working in the real world right now. It can affect supply chains, right? So Louis Vuitton, Apples, we know where Apple's coming from. You know, was this really manufactured in China or was it manufactured somewhere else? We can follow, we can start tying real world meat space assets to their digital counterparts within NFTs. We can start selling the rights to these things. We can start lending them out. We can start borrowing against them. So you have a cool asset in the real world. You don't want to sell it. Right? Historically, you go to like a pawnbroker and you give it to him. And well, what if there was a way where you can deposit that NFT that we know is worth money, borrow against it, and then after you're done borrowing it, you can return the money and you get it back. Yeah. So what if you wanted to fractionalize? What if you owned a Mona Lisa, right? Which is historically a very expensive piece of art. Only one person owns it. Art has been a really good investment vehicle actually for a very long time. What if you fractionalized it and sold it into 1,000 pieces, and now I can own a piece of this, and when the price goes up and there's a lot of people interested in owning the Mona Lisa, I can sell mine. The Mona Lisa is going to stay in the Louvre, it's going to stay in the museum, anyone can go see it, but the ownership can actually be fractionalized against anyone who wants to invest and participate in this. It doesn't matter what country you're in, it doesn't matter where you are. Anybody can own any piece. It doesn't just have to be art. It can be anything.
Anything.
And that's,
sorry to cut you off. This is kind of huge because not only does this benefit the person who's purchasing the NFT or the piece of art, but it also benefits the artist. So there are now a ton of artists now.
I'll take it to the next level for you.
Yeah, go for it.
So when the artist created the Mona Lisa and sold it, he got the money and he's done. And then Mina has it now and he sold it to Larry and Larry gave Mina the money. The artist didn't make any money. With these NFTs, what's actually happening, we're coding into them that the original artist oftentimes gets a cut of every single
purchase?
Resale forever. No way. 5%, 10%, whatever it is. You agree to it. It's in the smart contract. You're buying this from me. I'm saying, hey, if I'm an artist, I'm going to sell you this thing, but I want you to have it. And if you sell it, I'm going to get 10%. And that person, I'm going to get 10% again. So now your art can live forever. And it's incentivizing artists to actually create art. It doesn't just have to be paintings. It can be music, sculpture. It can be anything of value. Gaming is massive. So think of all the cool games we played when we were growing up. Give me a cool...
RuneScape?
Cool, RuneScape. Excellent. There are really exotic and cool armors and swords that you can get, right? Those swords exist within the game's economy, right? And there are people who want to buy these things. You got to send them money, and they'll agree to meet you in the game and do a trade with you, and they'll give it to you, right? But that money often exists within that ecosystem. The companies today actually make you pay. You got to buy COD points in order to purchase the latest skin on the gun that you want. That money's in there. It's there forever, and only the game developer gets to keep that. What if you own this armor? What if you own this skin on this cool gun, and they only made 10 of them, and you were one of the cool people who completed the quest, and you got one of these things, and it's super valuable. And this skin exists within the Ethereum ecosystem as an NFT. I can now take that skin that I play, that sword that I have in RuneScape. If a developer creates another game and allows me to port over my NFTs because they exist, I can take that same sword and I can use it in that game. I'm tired of this game. I don't want to play this game anymore. I can sell that sword to another person. They can give me Ethereum. The original designer of that sword is also continuing to make a profit, right? They're getting their small little piece. So we didn't completely cut out the original artists, the game developers. They're getting their cut. but we're allowing the people that own the actual assets to make the most. And it's not, once you're done with a game now, you throw out the CD, you're not playing with it, however much money you invested in it, and it's gone. Now you can actually capture some of that value. There are entire ecosystems. The Philippines, this is happening really big in the Philippines right now. There are games that pay players to play them. There's certain things you can do to get in-game currency, in-game rewards. You can sell those on these decentralized exchanges, Axie Infinity being one of them. So you can actually earn money for playing these games, getting these NFTs, selling them, trading them, breeding them, doing like really cool things that we don't even know what's possible yet because the NFT technology allows it. And we're just starting. It's not just JPEGs. It's everything.
You've got me. I'm crazy excited. And so, like for instance, I want to buy a piece of art.
Yeah.
Right. But maybe I'm not an art guru. Like for instance, I don't really care for the JPEG. I'm just looking to resell this or make some money off of it. What would somebody look for?
OpenSea. So the biggest platform today for NFTs is unfortunately not decentralized, but it's open. It's called OpenSea. I think it's OpenSea.com or OpenSea.io, whatever it is. You need an Ethereum address, and you need something called a MetaMask wallet. You have this Ethereum address in your MetaMask wallet. You have your one Ethereum in there. You can go into OpenSea. They don't need to know who you are. They don't ask you for a username or a password or anything. You just say, hey, connect your wallet. Connected your wallet, you have control. You find a cool piece of art. There's entire communities. There's these things called apes. That there's an entire Twitter community that has their profile pictures as these bored apes, and you can join that community and you can be one of them. You can be a punk. There's like a community of people who buy these things called punks. They're very expensive. You can find whatever art that you like, that you think, I'm not an artist, so I don't know what's going to appreciate in value and what's not, what's vaporware, what's junk, what's not that rare. But if you see that there's a community behind something, if you see that there's something of value, if you see that there's going to be ways to monetize this art in the future, which is actually starting to happen, you can invest in it, you can own it, you can make it your profile picture, you can hold on to it, you can display it, you can sell it, you can keep it, you can lend it, you can do whatever you want. And that's what's happening right now. So if you do want to buy a piece of art, OpenSea is probably the biggest marketplace right now for you to buy. Or if you want to sell art, if any of your listeners are artists and they want to create something cool, they want to create comic book characters, they want to create swords, they want to create pictures, they want to create whatever it is. They want to create GIFs. It doesn't just have to be an image. Everything and anything can be created and sold and traded, and there's a marketplace for it.
And you can see the supply for it, so that way you know exactly how many of them are around and whatnot. So what stops me from buying one and re-uploading my own, and then selling copies of it? What is the stopgap on that?
Explain your question.
So I see 5 of these digital cards, right, on the marketplace. I buy one. Now, how do I, if I want to re-upload it on the marketplace and say, oh, there's another 5 of them or whatever,
not possible.
Yeah.
So we know that this artist created 5, right? You are Mina's the artist. We look at his address. Mina, coolest podcaster in the world, is creating 5 podcast NFTs, pictures of a mic. His address only created 5. The value is in the artist, right? This artist is the coolest artist, and he created these. You bought one, and now you can resell it. You could be one of the 5. But if you introduced another 4, you're going to have to create them somewhere. They're going to be created out of Larry's account.
Yeah.
They're not going to be the same as the ones. They're not going to have the same fidelity, the same history as what Mina had. Okay. So you can't trick the system. You can right-click, copy, paste, and now you can have 1 million copies, and anyone can look at it. Anyone can make it their profile picture, and it doesn't matter. Think of the Mona Lisa. Like, everyone knows what the Mona Lisa looks like. The more eyeballs on it, it doesn't necessarily detract from its value. The more copies there is, the more prints doesn't detract from it. In fact, it possibly increases its value. Only one person owns the real one, and only one person can prove without a doubt that they own it.
And so your vision of this, of the marriage, actually, you're explaining of the marriage between the physical and the NFT was a missing part of my understanding of the whole concept, because every time I keep hearing it, I always think of digital art. I don't think of the pairing of them. So that just makes complete sense to me. So you're saying that with every purchase, really, there's this essence of verification that you're actually buying the legit thing. So you imagine, with larger adoption, you're gonna have the verified NFT with your product to actually know that you're buying the legit thing.
I believe that it's going to happen. Yes. And I believe that this technology exists. You just need more brands, more awareness, and it's gonna happen. You know, we're talking about it. People are gonna hear about it. They're gonna understand it. They're gonna explain it to someone else. The same way Bitcoin happened. The cat's out of the bag. So I hope that was helpful, man. I hope now you understand NFTs a little bit.
I mean, while you were talking about OpenSea, I just wrote it down in my notes real quick because after this podcast, we're doing some art shopping.
Yeah. A little bit.
But okay, so wow, okay. You were definitely perfect timing in bringing you in and talking about this. Something that's come up on my radar recently that I even put up an Instagram story about as like a PSA to friends is I'm starting to see, and people I'm following on Instagram are not victims. What's the opposite of victim?
Enablers or
sure, yeah,
bullies.
Yeah, they're making these posts. Invest 300 and get $3,000 in 3 hours by investing in Bitcoin mining. First off, I know what mining is. I built a mining rig. Yeah. You don't invest money in mining. Mining is an action. It's this technological thing. And so is the cryptocurrency industry or field doing anything to kind of combat these people who are basically giving crypto a bad name? Because I'm sure some person falls victim to it and invests the 300. I don't know what exactly this is, if it's a pyramid scheme or where that money goes, or if they completely get scammed. But now they've got this bad or negative idea of cryptocurrency. And so is there any type of battling that the cryptocurrency scene is doing against these type of people or anything like that?
More education, man. There's absolutely no way to stop. I mean, people have been getting scammed forever, and this is just the latest attack vector that the scammers are taking. And unfortunately, they're taking advantage of the most vulnerable members of our community. They are giving the entire industry a bad name. It's slowing things down. But what we can do collectively is just have more of these conversations, not educate just our friends and only talk about it within our echo chamber as all the people who love ETH and, oh, the price of ETH is up. Yeah, high five, meme. Spend the time in your communities, in your churches, in your mosques, in whatever forum that you have. Teach one or two people, especially older people, about this technology, how it works, how not to get scammed. Show them how to interact with it. I spend a lot of time doing this. And that's how we move the space forward. There's no central authority that can stop this. This is decentralized, right? Everyone wants to be their own bank until they realize that when you're in your own bank, people can steal money from you because there's no guardrails in place. So yeah, I'm glad you're noticing it. Call it out, comment on it, be like, this is not right. This is a scam. Don't participate in this. Educate the people who are liking it. You know, let them know that there's no way to make easy money. The only way to understand this space is to participate. You know, get yourself on an exchange like Coinbase, buy a little bit, figure out how it works, talk to people, go to meetups, go to podcasts, do your part.
There's not a day where I don't hear about some BS coin like coming up and people telling me to invest in it. How do you advise people who get overwhelmed with the plethora of coins that are out there? Basically, what do you explain to them to pay attention to? The characteristics of them to know if it's legit or not.
And to add on to what Larry's saying, are you just a believer in the big three, or do you dabble in these other,
what's the third one?
What is it? Bitcoin, Ethereum. Is Ethereum
Solana.
Classic technically its own
Ethereum
thing?
Classic is junk.
It's
Ethereum
junk.
Classic is
Oh,
junk.
actually?
Yeah.
Straight
junk.
Big two, though.
It's an orphan
Litecoin,
chain.
is that top?
Not even
junk?
in the top three
Okay,
anymore.
So there we go. So characteristics of what makes a coin legit or not.
I'll answer the second question first. I do believe in a lot of other protocols.
Okay.
A lot. There's some really cool stuff that's being built, but I don't advise people who don't spend as much time as I am to risk going down that rabbit hole. Like a lot of people fall for the Ripple is, it's small. You should buy. I could buy 1 million Ripple for a couple $100.
Yeah,
He's a penny stock, so we're talking
exactly.
about
Or I can buy 0.001 Bitcoin for $100. Most people don't understand the concept of market cap. My advice is buy Bitcoin and buy Ethereum. Don't get overwhelmed. Those, if you purchase those things and you own them and you hold them for the long term because you are because it's something you want to invest in. Don't invest in this because Ali told you to invest this. My advice, if someone wants to purchase these things and is asking me questions about all these other things, the advice I give my parents, right, is the advice that I'm willing to give other people. I told them to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum, hold on to it. Don't worry about the noise. There's going to be things that win. There's going to be things that potentially outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum. And there's going to be hundreds, if not thousands of other things that fail miserably and go to zero. Rule number one of investing for me is don't lose money. I am super biased and of the belief that it's very difficult to lose money by holding Bitcoin and Ethereum for a long term. I am not of the same belief that the other coins have the same risk profile. So with investment, you get compensated for the risks you take. The more risks you take, the more reward you could potentially get. So with these smaller coins, you're taking on smart contract risk, you're taking on regulatory risk, you're taking on scam risk, you're taking on X, Y, and Z risk. And if you don't understand all those risks, you're going to get burned. If you're willing to understand those risks and underwrite them, you're going to get compensated for them. Potentially, you could also lose. Those are risks. So yeah, Bitcoin, Ethereum, hold on to it. If you're going to buy something, hold it for at least 4 years. It corresponds with the Bitcoin halving cycles that I've been talking about. Historically, that's worked really well. Ignore the noise. Don't worry about NFTs. Don't worry about Solana. Don't worry about Ripple. Don't worry about Doge. Start somewhere. Start with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and you won't regret it.
Okay, so then because the belief by many in my friend group is that it's just luck that Bitcoin and Ethereum they were early in the game, so they're the name brands. They're the Louis Vuitton of the coins, and so everyone just knows who they are. That's why they do so well. But I just wanted to make sure that was clarified here, is that that's not the case, and there is reasons why they do so well compared to other coins.
The example I'll give you is it luck that Apple is the most valuable company in the world, or Microsoft, or Amazon? Right? Do people do people give the same investment advice? Say, hey, don't invest in Apple and Amazon. They've already made it. You know, forget how profitable they are. They're up there. Find the next hot thing. Let's invest in like that small company.
That was the internet bubble, basically.
Exactly, right? So there are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. But to feel like you missed out on Bitcoin and Ethereum and to chase some of these other smaller coins is a mistake, in my opinion, because we are still early. We're still so early, and people shouldn't be afraid of the numbers. The most common thing I see is, oh man, I looked at Bitcoin when it was 5,000. I thought it was too expensive, and I was just waiting for the dip. The dip never happened. Now it's 20,000, and the dip didn't happen, and I can't buy it. I just can't make myself buy it. If you had said that and watched what Amazon did over the past 10 years, or what Apple did, or you have never made it. We are still super early, and I stick by this belief that 4 years from now, people are going to look back and say, dang it, I wish I bought Bitcoin at $55,000.
It's this endless cycle of feeling that you're too late.
Yes.
But the time that you spend telling yourself that you're too late, you're wasting more time, and you're doing the same exact thing.
Well, it's lack of education on the reasoning for why it would keep going up. Like someone can understand why Amazon keeps going up, profits, whatever, revenue, right? With Bitcoin, there's a lack of understanding of why it goes up. Right. They just think it's just just because more people are just buying it, so that's why it's going up. But like, what could make it go 100,000? That idea doesn't make sense to them. That's this aspect of the supply being capped, and there's no more of it. Hopefully with this episode, it's much more clear as to why that price drives up.
You're making a bet on demand. Yeah. That is what you're making. You're not making a bet on profits or how many iPhones they're going to sell next year, how many Teslas are going to get delivered. You're making a bet on demand. You're saying, how many humans are there? How many humans know about this today? How many humans have demand today? Do I believe that tomorrow there's going to be more demand than there is today? If so, I should buy it. Because for the first time in human history, we have an investment where the supply is fixed. There's only one variable. There's only one. You're betting on demand. If you think that tomorrow we're going to wake up and we're not going to be interested in Bitcoin and we're going to move on to the next thing, then you shouldn't invest in this because the demand is going to go down. But this is the purest investment in the world. Do I believe that there are going to be more humans tomorrow, 1 year, 4 years from now, interested in Bitcoin than there are today? Not just humans, corporations, and not just corporations, governments, right? There's going to be entire governments that are going to be buying this stuff. Do I believe that to be true? If I don't, I should not buy this. If I do, I should buy it.
That's a great way of simplifying it, honestly, and I think that's a great way of just wrapping this up. Thank you so much, Ali, for all the knowledge in Bitcoin and crypto and DeFi, and you bring a plethora of both experience and intellect.
Thank you.
I know both of us I could speak for myself. I just learned a ton, although I thought I knew a lot by being in
No, we
this
don't
scene
know
for a
trash.
bit.
No.
But I just realized I know nothing.
That's the opportunity, man.
For sure.
You think you know nothing, right? Think of all the other people who actually know nothing, and then think of all the people who think Cardano is cheese and Ethereum is drugs. We are still
It's all
early.
perspective.
It's all
It's all
perspective,
perspective. But seriously, thank you so much for being on here,
Thank you.
Ali. Perceptive Capital.
Thank you.
This is Anomaly Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. You've got Mina Marcos here and my co-host.
Lawrence Garyville.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.